This is it, the final round of the 2021 GT4 European Series. It started at Monza, moved to Paul Ricard, then to Zandvoort, Spa-Francorchamps. It worked its way through the great circuits, the Nürburgring, and now here, the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya for races 11 and 12 of this season. And it's an absolutely packed grid of cars. They're going to come out and play. Track temperature 26.5 degrees, 19.5 degrees air temperature. It's starting to dip a little bit. It's been a lovely autumnal day, but quite a lot of grey in the sky, but certainly no grey on the track. It's been really fast and furious all day long. Unfortunately, one of the championship challengers will not be competing because the number 3 Toyota had a little bit of an accident and is out of the reckoning. But let's go down to the grid because Gemma has got Beltoise.
And so first time for you guys for this car on pole this season. You've got to be pleased with that.
Yeah, we are really happy. Loris did a very good job. He is stronger race after race in the beginning of the season. And this morning he was really flying in quali, so up for a good start and a good result at the end.
It was a difficult qualifying session with the red flag.
Yeah, obviously a lot of traffic, a lot of yellow and red flags. Also the degradation of the new tires, and as you can see, all the bullets of gum everywhere. It makes the quality difficult, and I think the race will be difficult also.
And how's Loris feeling about this start?
It's obviously good.
Thank you. Have a great race.
Thank you.
So Vincent Beltoise down there with Gemma explaining about it was a stop-start session and it was really hard. A lot of drivers had only just got a sort of outlap in before the first stoppage came, and it really was about maximising their time when their tyres were sweet, trying to work their way through the traffic. And Clement Seiler did that very well. He will be starting from the outside of the front row, the French racer sharing with the Israeli racer Roy Meuhas in one of many Santalok racing Audis, but it was certainly some of the likely front runners did not manage to get a clear run through the traffic. Someone who worked really well was the driver Gerald Sturm, who's sharing this weekend with Bastien Boos, who's back in the championship. Really strong run at the end of that first qualifying session. He worked his way through the traffic. A lot of others didn't manage to do so, including 2 of the cars that are top of the points in the Silver Cup. Charlie Fagg will be starting way down the order in the United Autosports McLaren, and Stéphane Lemeray and Antoine Potti well, Potti is starting just at the tail end of the top 10, but for a lot of the run it was very, very tricky indeed. Not for the number 42 Audi. That is the top car in the Pro-Am class. They've already won the championship. Fabien Michal, who set the time, and Gregory Gilbert, his teammate. But qualifying 5th fastest overall, that is very, very impressive indeed, bearing in mind it's a Pro-Am driver lineup in that one. All the cars ahead in the Silver Cup class. And then in 6th place, this car, the car number 69 from Team Full Motorsport, Christophe Hamon. He's an AM, and he stuck it 6th on the grid. That was sensational for that combination, and they have already, like Gilbert and Michal, they've wrapped up their class. That is the AM class. And job very well done. Car number 15, next a little bit further down the grid, one of the local favourites. Luc Ibanez will be staring with Javier Choveras, and they have had wins in this championship before at GT4 level. Sounds absolutely fantastic as it was rumbling through the paddock. And Aston Martin have a couple of cars at the front end. We've got Gazot in 4th on the grid, and Ruben Del Sart, who's sharing with Tom Canning this weekend. The young British driver had looked very good and actually might have qualified slightly higher, apart from their final lap just being caught out as he got to the chicane by cars backing up the track in front of them. Potti and Lemeray. It will be Antoine Potti starting from down at the tail of the top 10, but that is a car that came here 2nd on points. And 2 races here, and that means there's potentially 26 points up for grabs. So in both of those races, so they could overhaul the 44-point difference, Charlie Fagg and Bailey Voisin, and at least they have an advantage on the grid because the McLaren is somewhat further down. And the run down to the first corner, if they can gain a couple of positions, build even more of a cushion, it will give them an opportunity. So as the last of the people on the grid go through the gap in the wall, the formation lap starts now. On pole position, Loris Cabarrou, the number 30 entry from CMR. It's the Alpine. He's sharing that with the driver we heard from the first of the interviews, Vincent Beltoise. 2nd on the grid, Clement Seiler, car number 14 from Santalok Racing. He will share that with Roy Meuhas. 3rd car down the line, Gerald Sturm, the Allied Racing Porsche racer. He's sharing with Bastien Boos back on board. And the 5th one, it's from AGS Events, César Gazot, French racer, sharing with Constantin Lachenauer a driver from Switzerland, as we work our way down those first two roads on the grid, filled by Silver Cup combinations. Then on row number 3, we get to Fabien Michal, who's the leading Pro-Am runner, already champion in that class, and Christophe Hamon, also champion in his class. That's in the AM class. Luc Ibanez, top Spanish driver on the grid, and Ruben Del Sart alongside in his Mirage Racing Aston Martin. Then Antoine Potti in the CMR Toyota, and Joscha Panger, who went very well at points in the V8 Racing Camaro. Very different engine note to the rest of the cars in the field. Alexander Hartwig, again showing Allied Racing looking very good with their Porsches. And Robert Consani, Team Speed Car Audi, alongside him. That's car number 4. That's from the Speed Car team. Then Bo and Bosco, so we've got 2 Mercedes forming the 7th row on the grid. And Bosco running in the Pro-Am class. Then another of the runners, good to have Marcus Lundstrass back. He's been very faithful at this championship over the years. And Rodolphe Walgren alongside. Then Bailey Voisin, championship leader, down in 17th position. He's got to be cautious, but he knows he's got to press on. Big points advantage, but doesn't want to get caught out in that midfield rumble. Even Jakova, Paul Evra, so Porsche and Mercedes formed the 10th row of the grid. Then Cemboluk Bazi from Turkey, and another of the many, many French drivers, Nicolas Gomar, running down in the middle order. Efvava had a little bit of an off moment in qualifying, but that car is all good alongside Saleh. Then another second Arcadia Racing Alpine on row number 13 alongside Casobons, Guérin and Petelet, again doubling up for Arcadia Racing. And then a drive over from the States, Alexandra Papadopoulos sharing with Paolo Maloney as they work their way down to the 15th row of the grid. It's a huge grid. Francesco Guerra had actually been fastest in the early part of that first qualifying session by being the first car out of the pits. But as you can see, down among the 30s, Christophe Bouret, a fellow French racer, Jean-Luc Bobelic, and then Hakan Tansu and Gus Bowers in the second of the United Autosport McLarens. Don't expect that to stay down the order. Gregory Fessel racing all on his own in this 1-hour race. No teammate for him. He'll have to come in, serve the pit stop, minimum pit stop time, and then go back out for the second half of the race. And now to the last few cars on the grid. Mauro Ricci and Eric Clement, well, except the Clement car will not be starting the race. That was given a big hit into the pit wall, and that will be away. And Piotr Chodson bringing up the rear, the SVC Sport Management, number 33, one of a handful of Toyota Supras in this race. But as the field reaches turn 13 and starts to come down the hill into what was going to be 2x2 formation, not easy through that final chicane onto the start-finish straight. The lights are out on the safety car. This, the first of the 2 races of the final round of the 2021 GT4 European Series. And up to those behind to keep as close as they can. They're going to come round through that final corner, turn 16 onto the start-finish straight. They can't go until the lights on the starting gantry turn from red to green. They wait. The field is so big, it continues to pour through the final corner. More than 40 cars. And now a brilliant start from the driver on pole position, but not such a good start from second place. And unfortunately for Clement Seiler, has undone a lot of the work that he did in qualifying. Looks nice and neat and tidy. The Alpine leading the way down, but it's Joel Sturm up from 3rd to 2nd. He's trying to take the outside line. But as Cabarrou moves across, he's wise. He makes sure there is no outside line. And a good start, excuse me, from 5th to 3rd goes Fabien Michal, the Pro-Am champion. Nice and tidy for him. He's got ahead of Cesar Gazot in the Aston Martin. Tidy through turn 1, tidy through turn 2, and now that long climb up the hill through turn 3. The first 4 cars starting to break away, and Clement Seiler, who started from 2nd, you can see the yellow nose of his Audi in 5th place. He's being challenged from behind by number 15, Luc Ibanez, who's also gained a place or so in the early running. But it's very tidy at the front from the poleman. Loris Cabarrou had the dream start, had about a 3 car length advantage as they blasted away, whereas Clement Seiler did not predict it very well and fell back down the order, and I think he's falling a little bit further. No, he's still hanging on to 5th place, and in fact he's now starting to close in on the Aston Martin of Cesar Gazot, who's in 4th. A little bit of dust kicked out up as turn 7 turns into turn 8. Well, that happens every single lap pretty much here at the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya. Up over the crest of the hill here at turn 9, brilliant corner. And then the infield straight, not as long as it was because it's been curtailed in the recent years. A bit of a change, but grip is an issue for all these drivers. They get down here, they need it for braking. Now, just looking to see how the United Autosports McLaren was doing. Might have gained a place or 2, but caution required. And having started back as far as he did, Bailey Voisin may not even get up in among the points. They only go from 1st through to 10th place, and he's certainly not in 10th place at the moment. looking to see there. Car number 23 is the one we're looking for. It's orange and blue, that McLaren orange. He's all over the tail of one of the BMWs. I would think that's Cem Bazi, and he actually started behind him. So a great start from the Turk, making his way forward. But no doubting the identity of the race leader. 2/3 of a second clear of the rest. Loris Cabarrus, the tight pack, is just at the tail of the top end. So it's Cabarrus, Sturm, Michal Gazot, the fast four. Then Seiler, Ibanez, Potti. Christophe Hamon lost a couple of positions, but he's only just one car position ahead of the next car in the AM class. So look out for Markus Lungstras, car number 18, making very, very good strides indeed. And Joprapanga in the V8 Racing Camaro, just in the background of the shot in the metallic blue livery, completes the top 10. And I'm just looking to check every one of the starters. We've got 40. We had 43 cars come here, but we lost the number 3 Toyota in a qualifying accident. Andrea Benazet didn't get to complete his run, and the car was packed into trailer, taken away. And also the number 77 Team Full Motorsport Audi, that was packed away too after Eric Clement bashed that. But 41 cars started this race, 41 cars still circulating. I said it was neat, I said it was tidy. Now, what is my prediction for this race? It's an hour long, of course. It's a driver change partway through. In the Pro-Am field, we've got a car in 3rd place, but wouldn't the Gilbert-Michal combination, Fabien Michal at the wheel at the moment, love to improve on their best result of the year. They've had a pair of 2nd places, a pair of 3rd, but if they could win outright as a Pro-Am crew, that would be phenomenal. But, of course, Michal and Gilbert are a Pro-Am lineup, whereas Loris Cabarrus in the lead of the race, he's sharing his Silver Cup entry with Vincent Beltoise, so the overall standard should be that little bit higher, and Joel Sturm has got Bastien Boost. That is a really good bullet to have in the 2nd part of the race. And the Allied Racing Porsche Cayman looks very, very tidy indeed. And just to let you know, Bailey Voisin came through the end of the opening lap, the championship leader in 17th place overall, so he did gain 1 position, and likewise Antoine Potti, the championship chaser, gained 1. He's gone from 8th to 7th. First 3 cars just starting to eke out an advantage. Loris Cabarrus was he's doubled his advantage to 1.37 seconds at the lead of the race over Joel Sturm, who's got just over a second clear of Fabien Michal. Then there's a gap of nearly 1.2 seconds back to the Aston Martin of César Gazot. So the first 4 cars, first 4 makes in this fantastic championship. It's a great pleasure to watch how it's grown over recent years. Only a handful of years ago, getting 20 cars was sort of the target they were aiming for, but that is far, far in the past. Joprapanga coming under increasing pressure from car number 4, Team Speed Car, Robert Consani driven Audi. And a little bit of pushing and shoving perhaps. No, car number 69. Fighting with for AM honours on the field. Look out for it. There it is, braking hard into turn 7. Running just behind Antoine Potti, but Markus Lungstras tucked in behind in the Aston Martin. Up the hill they go. Really not much in it. Dark clouds over the top of the crest at turn number 9, not affecting the drivers though. It's been high cloud all day. A little bit of brightness earlier on, but it's fallen away. Well, certainly Christophe Hamon's getting very interested indeed. He's now going inside of the driver who's 2nd in the Silver Cup class in the championship. Of course, we've got the Silver Cup class, we've got the Pro-Am class. I sense a little bit of a touch there from Christophe Hamon. And then we've got the AM class, of which Christophe Hamon in that number 69 Audi has already nailed the title. But he's fancying far more than that. He's enjoying playing with the front runners right here. And for Antoine Potti, it's the outside shot winning the Silver Cup class, because Bailey Voisin is well clear. But he's got to have not just 1 great result here, he's got to have 2. And the race tomorrow is at a different time of the day. The track conditions will be very, very different today. Great scrap, 3 cars nose to tail. Let's take a look at the start. It was a dream for the driver on pole, Loris Cabarrus. Not so much for the driver on the outside of the front row, Clement Silos. He fell back from 2nd to 3rd to 4th to 5th. And now take a look at it again. Wait for it. And the driver in 3rd place became 2nd almost immediately. That's the black Allied Racing Porsche with Joel Sturm, who just grabbed the opportunity and in fact was the only one who lived with the estimation of when the start was from Loris Cabarrus. down to turn 1. It's remarkable with 41 cars that they all got through without leaving 1, 2 or even 3 in the gravel. But again, they've gained respect for each other, learned who they can race alongside or not. But Loris Caballero stretching his advantage. It was 1.6 of a second, then 1.3, now it's 1.4 with 3 laps on the board. But the fighting behind, Jora Panga's got plenty of company, still holding on in that Camaro. In 10th place, Robert Consani pushing very hard indeed. And in turn, Ruben Delsart in the Aston Martin with the big red, white, blue livery there. Looking one way, looking another, but he's going to find his moment, and certainly he's got the pace. And now this is buying a little bit of space for Jora Panga in that metallic blue Chevrolet, because he's just starting to find a little bit of an advantage. Robert Consani had been quick, but the pressure from Ruben Delsart in the Aston Martin as they go down to turn 10 is making him look in his mirrors a little bit more. Bailey Voisin has gone from 18th to 17th, 17th to 16th. His next target is Cembolok Bazi, one of those 2 aquamarine liveried BMW M4s. There's a little bit of body damage. Yes, there looks like there's a little bit of body damage. There has been contact with the championship leader, but he's still going. Oh, there's that Gus Bowers who had the contact. Oh, now, yes, the Chevrolet has lost not 1 but 2 positions in the blink of an eye, and Ruben Delsart has moved his way ahead, and also Cembolok Bazi, who's already gone up the track, didn't see where that happened, and as they go down the start for the straight, you'll look for the... Well, Bolok Bazi's disappeared from the picture. He's tumbled down the order, so he's the one who's lost out. One little moment is all it takes around this circuit when the cars are running so close to each other. So whatever happened, Ruben Delsart is on a charge. He was 12th, he's still 12th. He's trying to get up to 11th alongside the Camaro, and Robert Consani got past that Camaro just as I said he was coming under pressure. He managed to find a moment, shook the Aston Martin off his tail, dived inside the Chevrolet, and now the Chevrolet looks so he's about to maybe lose another position for the Aston Martin. Ruben Delsart will be on the wrong side of the track, the outside of the track, as they dive into turn 5, and suddenly loses a position because coming up from behind, great move from the number 74 Mercedes CD Sport, Sebastian Beau at the wheel, and Ruben Delsart fights back. A couple of French drivers fighting for the same piece of tarmac. Not an easy thing to do at turn 17, so it's been up and down for Delsart, and he's now looking for further drivers to get onto the tail. And Tom Hodier in, it looks like the same car attacking him as earlier. It's the other team speed car Audi, white and pink and blue tucked in behind, because the... Oh, now let's take a look at the positioning of Bailey Voisin. He's got Alexander Hartwig all over him, and Cembolok Bazi's got back in front. Talk about in front, Loris Caballero is just pulling away very slightly. We're talking by hundredths of a second at the moment, but this is super crowded around the middle order, just outside the top 10, and unfortunately a spinner. Oh, well, that's really bad luck for Jora Panga, but down to the chicane. I'm surprised we haven't had more contact. He's lost 5-6 positions. Let's take a look. Did it happen with an assist? You sort of feel it might have done, and most certainly it did. Oh, an airborne assist. And down he goes, and 74 Sebastian Beau. Well, I'm afraid he might be up before the beak for that one in front of the stewards, because he got it very wrong, and the Dutch driver of the Camaro, really nothing he could do about it. It's the tail of his car was spun round, and that's cost him big time. He's tumbled down, in fact, to 22nd position. There I was saying 5 or 6 positions have been shed, far more than that. Let's hope there's no damage. He can maybe fight his way back. We've still got plenty of time left, just under 10 minutes of this race, just over 10 minutes this race gone through, but the race is an hour long. So let's see what can happen. But right now, nobody can do anything about Loris Caballero leading the race comfortably. This is one of the greatest scraps of the race. Car number 69, an AM runner. This isn't a Pro-Am lineup, this is an AM runner. And Christophe Hamon in 69, absolutely, his Audi all over the tail of Antoine Potty, who's a silver-ranked driver, so he's fighting above his station and clearly enjoying it. But if he makes even the tiniest of slip-ups, Marcus Longstrach, back in the championship, will be there to pounce. And he's also running in the AM class this weekend. Marcus in the number 18, Racing One Aston Martin, just at the background of the shot. I sort of feel that a couple of these cars may yet end up in the gravel, because Christophe Hamon has taken the Go Faster tablets and is really reveling in this, pushing, shoving, and trying to find a way on the outside, on the inside, taking a look. He's leading the AM Cup. Look back just, one entire car length. And there's the car that's second in the AM, running the rankings here in the first of the 2 races at Barcelona. He's ready to pounce if half a moment comes, and all it's going to take is for Hamon to get a little bit sideways, and the Aston Martin driver's going to pounce onto the start-finish straight. They've got 6 laps now under their belts. And up at the front of the field, suddenly it was a very, very good lap from the driver in second place. It's closed right in to 1.3 seconds down, and this little battle's a good one too. 27 and 14. This is the battle for 4th place overall. César Gazot in the number 27 Aston Martin. That's entered by AGS Events, and in behind Clément Seiler, who got it wrong at the start of the race. Don't forget he was second on the grid, but really was going nowhere fast at the start. Shed 3 positions, now trying to claim them back in his Santalot Racing Audi. That's number 14. César Gazot for AGS Events in 4th, holding on, but all this is doing is letting the first 3 drivers escape. Half a move, turn 5 is a place so many drivers take a look, but if you can't quite get it done there, you're probably going to be slightly compromised because you've got to get around the corner in the front of the show. Well, we've got a Santalot Audi in 3rd place, and we've got one in 4th now, and César Gazot would have liked to turn in the corner, but the Audi went up the inside, and I'm not sure that was the world's greatest move, but the cost is borne by the Aston Martin driver, off through the gravel at turn 7, kicking up the dust. Can't really lay any blame. Let's take a look. Up the inside goes the Audi, but well, the Aston Martin was trying to turn in, but I suppose he had to turn in at some point. But anyhow, maybe slightly less blame on the driver of the Audi than I thought. So Clément Seiler started 2nd, fell to 5th, up to 4th. But unfortunately, César Gazot tumbling right down the order now, being stuck in the gravel there. Very clean and tidy thus far. Of course, we saw the V8 Racing Camaro being spun around. I'll keep an eye for messages. Certainly a lot of drivers being warned for exceeding track limits on the exit of the chicane. That's turn 15. And for César Gazot, he'd love to exceed track limits. He's not even going to get back on the track. Stuck with the nose against the wall pretty much by looks things at turn 7. Now, this is the lead battle. 1st and 2nd down to 1 second flat between the pair of them. And in behind, suddenly with that happening, it means Antoine Poitiers will be gaining more points than he had been expecting, but he really needs to win this race and tomorrow's as well to really have much of a chance. Bailey Voisin, championship leader, only now, middle of our screen, the orange and blue McLaren coming down the hill under pressure from Alexander Hartwig. He's only down in 14th position. Of course, he's just been gifted one. Now we've got full course yellow, of course, with that Aston Martin. César Gazot's car to be removed, so nobody can gain any advantage. They have to drop down to a mandatory speed. Anyone caught speeding, of course, will pick up a penalty. So just bear in mind, it got down to almost precisely a second. 1.012 seconds between the race leader, Loris Cabreau, and Joel Sturm. It had been almost double that. It got just under 2 seconds, the race leader's advantage in the number 30 CMR Alpine, but Joel Sturm came on very well indeed. Now let's take a look at that move. Through turn 6, they go up the inside. Goes the yellow Audi, but he wasn't in front. Stuck his nose up the inside. César Gazot maybe slightly unsighted there, just kept on turning in and went across the nose of the Audi and right through the gravel trap. Impossible to turn from there and will need to be pulled out. I think the car may have stopped just short of the wall, but any hope of points, they would have been a very helping handful of points for running in 4th place had they got to the finish. That is scrapped as an idea, unfortunately for them, with that contact as they fought over 4th place. So no 12 points heading their way, no points whatsoever. So full course yellow as the Aston Martin needs to be recovered, and I'll keep an eye out to see if any penalty goes the way of Clément Seiler for that contact, but haven't seen any message to that effect, and not entirely sure any message like that will come. Loris Cabreau leading the race, the number 30 CMR Alpine. 2nd place, Joel Sturm, the number 22 Allied Racing Porsche. The leading Pro-Am runner, already champion in that class, Fabien Michal. He's 3, nearly 4 seconds down on the pair of them in 3rd place overall. Still a good run. Clément Seiler still in 4th. The leader in the AM class, car number 69 from Team Full Motorsport, the Audi of Christophe Hamon, who's had such an impressive race, harrying Antoine Poitiers. Poitiers is still ahead. And of course, battle will be rejoined when the yellow flags and the full are withdrawn and the full full course yellow period comes to an end. But as you can see at the chicane, the flag still being waved in the background. Right, back on a part of the circuit that should lead to rejoining the race is Cesar Gazot with his Aston Martin, but he's lost. It will be the best part of 2 laps by the time he rejoins, so very frustrating for the French racer there. Europanga just coming through the chicane. Don't forget he was turned around by Sebastian Beau, and that has cost him down into, well, way out of the points, so disappointment for him. Right, VMAX on the Race Vision, powered by AWS, 1.5 kilometres faster than anyone else. Cem Bolokbazi, his car's running 13th on the overall, but his BMW fastest in the straight line, and the Chevrolet that was spun around good for second fastest. Bailey Voisin in his McLaren, and Gus Bowers, his teammate, in his McLaren, both doing an identical speed. 255 kph down the start-finish straight. To this point, the approach to turn 1. Safety car will be out. You can see the SC boards around the circuit would have picked up the race leaders. The waved yellow flags letting the drivers know what is happening. And incident between car 51 and car 27 has been noted. Car 27, Cesar Gazot, the Aston Martin driver who was put into the gravel, and car 51, the driver who put in there. In fact, car 51, it doesn't mean 51. I think it actually means Clement Seiler in car number 14. Sorry, those are the only 2 at turn 7 who've had the moment down there. So our race leader, Loris Cabarrou, 27 by the way, has made it back and entered the pit lane, presumably withdrawing from this race, having lost 2 laps. But Loris Cabarrou from Joel Sturm, it's Alpine from Porsche, then 2 Audis, Fabien Michal, who's running in the Pro-Am class, Clement Seiler, another Silver Cup runner, and Luc Ibanez. It's a fairly quiet race in the NM Racing Team Mercedes in 5th place overall. Obviously, it would have been 6th, but with Cesar Gazot having gone off, he has been promoted into 5th place. And other incidents that are under investigation, including Sebastian Beau spinning Europanga around at the chicane, and the Chevrolet driver really lost out in all of that. Still the safety car, and we're going to get to within 5 minutes, the pit window opening very soon indeed. But down the start-finish straight, just passing my commentary position on the start-finish line, goes the lead safety car. And those behind needing to do their job, keep as close as they can to the car in front, ready for the restart. And well, I'll have a look and see when the indication is coming, but still the lights ablaze on the roof of that Audi safety car. Down to the first turn they go. Some drivers dropping out of the run, trying to just move over to one side to get a bit more air through the front end of their car. And just to reiterate, the lead runner in Pro-Am is Fabien Michal in 3rd place overall in his Audi from Santalot Racing. The lead runner in the AM class, Christophe Hamon, is down in 7th place overall. I don't mean down, I mean that's very, very impressive for an AM lineup. Right, safety car in at the end of this lap. The lights are still flashing on the roof, but they will be extinguished. And for those behind, of course, under full course yellow, they couldn't close the gap, but under the safety car, they've been able to do precisely that. So when it comes in, those at the very tail of the field have to be pushing as hard as they can to reduce the gap, before the safety car withdraws, and at least claim back some of the seconds they've lost in the early stages of the race. Now let's just talk about where the McLaren is. Bailey Voisin leading the championship by 44 points, sharing with Charlie Fang. Charlie will be doing the second half of this race. It's going to be very interesting to see if they pit as soon as they possibly can when the pit window opens, because they're down in 14th place, no points going their way. But as it is, 6th place, and the points for that, which go to 8 points for 6th place, could be clawed back if there are no place changes from here to the end of the race by Antoine Porty, and he's 2nd in the championship in the Silver Cup class, sharing with Stéphane Lemeray. But I think for the McLaren crew, they've just got to keep chipping away, and at the moment they're not scoring points. So what they need to do, just to try and boost their championship or reduce the championship points swap around that's going to happen, because they're further down the order, is they've just got to try and get in the points in this race, just gather a few more, and they do what they have to do for the second race. But hold on, our race leader has just followed the safety car into the pits. The pit window isn't open. That is extraordinary. Loris Cabarrou must have a problem. Look, his Alpine's into the pit lane. What's the confusion there? I don't know what it is. I'm confused, but certainly the person who's not confused is Joel Sturm into the lead of the race. As I really need to get to the foot of what's happened. We'll hopefully find out. But for Loris Cabarrou, well, what a disaster. Into the pit lane, out of the lead of the race, so hard earned. Now, are there going to be any changes in behind? And yes, there are, because on that restart, suddenly we had Clement Seiler in the yellow Santalok Audi going past the Pro-Am runner in the team, Fabien Michal. So change at the very front in two manners. The 27 Aston Martin Cesar Gazou's car in the pitch, but that's because it went off early, was put off at turn 7, and he's been given a bit of a hug. Not necessarily his fault, but suddenly on the charge, Joel Sturm has taken the lead of the race. And that is an odd one. Couldn't see any problem with Loris Cabarou's car, but he's driving and he must obviously know something is amiss. Brought it into the pit lane beyond my vision, and looks like they're opening the door, talking to him, but clearly some mechanical malaise. So reappraise the situation. Joel Sturm leading the race, Fabien Michal in second, and Clement Seiler, of course, made his move, that overtake early in the lap, and now Michal's got company from behind. Luc Ibanez in the Mercedes, tucked in behind. That's car number 15, Antoine Potti, now up into 5th place, so 2 more places gained. If he can finish there, that could be important, because at the moment, McLaren in the background of the shot is not scoring points. Needs to get in the top 10, but there might be some place changes down at the hairpin, and Aston Martin making progress. That's Marcus Lundstras who's just gone through. He's also got ahead of the driver who'd been leading the AM class before. That is the bright yellow and black Audi, Christophe Hamon. He'd been monstering people in the first half of the race. Now it was his turn to be monstered. Restarts, they can really reshape the order, but you just don't expect the race leader to suddenly peel off behind the safety car. That was an odd one. Right, let's see the advantage. Joel Sturm comes through 1.6 seconds ahead of Clement Seiler, and Antoine Potti has been a good lap. He's got past Fabien Michal as well. So he started the restart effectively in 6th place, became 5th. He's now up to 3rd place, coming his way. Marcus Lundstras up to 5th, now leads the AM class. Lots of place changing behind, but none for Bailey Voisin. He's still down in 14th place, the championship leader in the number 23 United Autosports. McLaren and number 30 back into the race. Don't know what the problem was, but that is not when the pit window is open. It should be open in, well, he's about to pull into the paddock by the looks of things. Oh dear. The car is drivable, but clearly not at full race pace. Well, that is a twist and a real shame, because that was looking very, very good for CMR. And Vincent Beltoise will not get to take part in this race. Hopefully they can come out to play tomorrow when we have a race in the morning, the final race, the 12th race of the 2021 championship. And they have achieved a couple of second places and a third. It's been competitive through the year. Didn't have the best of runs at the Nürburgring with effectively no points. Well, absolutely no points. But here it looks like they're going to recover it. Right, Bailey Voisin, his next target. First car up the track in front of him, Alexander Hartwig. Bailey Voisin is right in the midst of all that traffic. In fact, it looks like there's been a little swap around in the order. Just ahead of him now, Tom Hodier is the driver he's aiming for. Tom's been swapped around with Alexander Hartwig. Porsche moving ahead of the Audi. Pit window open for those that want to come in. Those at the front have more options about when they come in. Those down the order, well, they may want to try something different. If you feel your car is being held up by those in front. Oh, now there was a classic example. Get slightly off the line on the tyre debris on the outside of the circuit, and you're slipping and sliding towards the outside. And that was a bit of a moment there for Christophe Hamon, having come off the power a little bit off the start for the straight. That will cost him down at the end. He may yet lose another place. Cars in the second half of the field are the ones that have dived into pit lane. I think that would include Bailey Voisin. Yes, it does indeed. They were led in by Robert Consani, the number 4 speed car Audi. Second half of the field. Actually, it's quite good if half come in this lap and half next. It will stop this super busy field, all trying to use the same bit of space in the pit lane. Joel Sturm looking comfortable in the lead of the race. Don't forget, he was hunting down driver of number 30, Loris Cabru, who led away from pole position, halved the gap. Then we had that full course yellow period, and of course, gap came down to next to nothing. But when it was approaching the restart, just as the lights had gone out on the safety car, it looked as though that was the moment that Joel Sturm would have to attack. And suddenly, the race leader, Loris Cabru, reporting into the pit lane. So into the lead of the race. Now 1.6 seconds to good. Joel Sturm into the lead and pulling clear little by little from Clement Seiler. So looking for place changes. Are there going to be any gains in the pits? There shouldn't. There's a minimum pit stop time, and as long as everyone sticks to that, the order should be pretty much the same when they get out. But it's a question of how the rejoining driver uses their rubber. Can they really push very hard indeed and be sweet before they rejoin? Right down into the chicane already. This is the 13th lap, so as cars are rejoining after their pit stop, are we going to have the front runners coming into the pit lane? Not Joel Sturm, not the driver in second place, that's Clement Seiler, not the driver in third place, who's done what he needs to do in this race, working his way forward. Antoine Potouy, second in the championship. He will at some stage hand over to Stefan Lemery, but he's got a fairly clear track ahead of him. He's been patient, and if he'd ended the race where he qualified, he'd have only picked up a handful of points. But this race, running in third place, if they can maintain that, he'll put 15 points in the championship pot. That is very good indeed. Yes, if he'd stayed in ninth position where he qualified, he'd only go for 2. So he's gained 13 points by moving up the order. Right, this is a car that could still feature. Tom Canning's about to get in, and Ruben Delsart, the tall French driver, hopping out. Well, I certainly think this Mirage Racing Aston Martin, sponsorship from Feline Fields in Okavango down in Botswana, will be a big feature in the race as long as nothing untoward happens during this pit stop. So Ruben Delsart just taking a look. He's done all he can do. His teammate Tom Canning now strapped in, and see where that slots in. But the top 3 runners, with Marcus Lundstrass now up into 4th place, having just got ahead of Luc Yvignet. So Lundstrass has been super impressive in his Aston Martin. Still circulating, trying to put mileage out there. Now waiting to see really what the championship leader can do. It's the McLaren that is now in the hands of Charlie Fagg, started by Lee Voisin, listed as 26th overall, but a lot of those in front were behind. They haven't made their pit stops yet. They can still do so for some while. So we've got 6 minutes in which this pit window is open in this 1 hour race. 1 hour race, 2 drivers. In the case of all the crews except one, where we've got Gregory Faisel running on his own in the number 21 Audi. He'll do the first part of the race and the second part. Can blame nobody but himself if all goes wrong. Tight gaggles of cars. Allied Racing Porsches, that's number 26 in the mix in that one. That's the one started by Alexander Hartwig. Right, Clement Seiler into the pits. Joel Sturm continues for another lap. The other McLaren coming back. It's also about where you slot back out onto the circuit. The yellow Audi from Santalot Racing, door open, driver charging around to get on board. Number 14 will be taken over by Roy Mehuas, and they started very well on this grid. They started from right at the sharp end on the front row. Had that dreadful start, went from 2nd down to 5th, but fought hard and worked his way back towards the sharp end. Still about 10 drivers have not considered yet coming in. They decide it's better to run a longer first stint. One of the BMWs right in the mix there, and Joel Sturm doesn't really want this trouble. He wants to continue his run as long as he can until his pit stop. He doesn't want to get caught up with drivers who've made their pit stop, who are effectively a lap down. So he's having to be rather careful indeed. So let's just run down the order at the moment. Joel Sturm leading the race. Marcus Lundstrass 2nd. Luc Yvignet 3rd. Christophe Hamon in 4th, the leading AM runner. Cem Bolokbazi in 5th. And the driver, Sebastian Beau, in 6th place overall. A dozen seconds cover them, but once they've served their pit stop, a lot of these drivers are going to be dropping out of the top 10, even out of the top 20. So competitive is this field. All eyes on Cem Bolokbazi. That's the sister car, car number 32. In fact, that's better placed on the track. Dean McDonald's lapping in 21st position overall, but he's right in front of the outright race leader, the driver who looks as though he's going to take a good haul of points in the Silver Cup class, but he's leading this race in 22, yet to make a pit stop. Is he going to come in this time around? I think he's going to hang on as long as he possibly can. He can do this lap, he can do the next lap, lapping in 1 minute, just under 2 minutes. So I would suggest, to be on the safe side, do this lap and then peel in. It'd be very embarrassing if you stayed too long and didn't get in just to the start of the pit lane before the 10-minute pit window has been brought to an end. Joel Sturm, 15 laps on the board. Second on the track now is Christoph Hamon, leading the AM class. Markus Lundstrass has entered the pit, so he's listed as third on the screen. But his Aston Martin just came in a few moments ago. So Joel Sturm doing things very differently to everyone else. Remember, even after the safety car period had closed everything up, he still managed to stretch his lead all over again. Number 18, Aston Martin, entered by Racing 1, Markus Lundstrass, handing over to Henrik Lyngby Pedersen. And Danish driver being strapped in right now. And don't forget, this was really running very, very well indeed on Marcus's return to the championship. Joel Sturm continuing on his way, and then once he's made his pit stop, we'll get the full clear picture about whether the car returns in the lead of the race, which it should. And then we will see how close those are behind, or indeed maybe he's been slightly obstructed in traffic, which we've seen happen with drivers coming out after their pit stops, and that certainly means his last few laps haven't been as good as his ones earlier in the race. Half a dozen, maybe 8 cars in the pit at the moment. Surely this time around it will be the lap that the driver of car number 22, the Allied Racing Porsche Cayman, Joel Sturm at the wheel, comes in to make its pit stop. And the German driver will hand over to Bastian Buus, the Danish driver. Right, he can't fit another lap in this time around. He's got to dive into the pits. He does dive into pit lane, and only about 5 other drivers, I think, have yet to make their final pit stop. They've got to do it this time around. Pit stop cannot be too quick. Well, it can be too quick, but then you get penalised for that. There is a minimum time at a standstill, but for Joel Sturm, waiting, easy to check where his marker board is in the pits because the pit lane remarkably empty, only a handful of cars coming in. Maybe it was a master stroke to stay out as long as he could in the Allied Racing Porsche Cayman, maybe not. I think he should be fairly well placed, but he did get interrupted by those who'd served their pit stops, who weren't as quick as him, which is pretty much everyone in the field, and came out. But his teammate, the tall figure, Bastian Buus, charging out, in fact, very similar in terms of height. That's always quite handy. Christoph Hamon in the pits, and Nicola Gomar, AGS Events, one of the last cars to pit, has worked his way up to 4th on the timing screens, but once he's served those pit stops, he'll be back down around 20th or so. But it's quite possible after this pit stop is served by the number 22, the black Allied Racing Porsche, that will return in the lead of the race. Or will it? There is the question. The car we've got to look for is this one, car number 14. And the Audi should be very well placed. Clement Seiler handed over to Roy Meujas, and Roy's at the wheel at the moment. Nice, neat and tidy. The pit stop always looks so slow. That's the run from turn 12 to turn 13. He's got to go down the slope to the chicane. Here's the chicane, and don't forget he's going to be coming onto start-finish straight at full pace. And still waiting for the number 22 Porsche to get going. Look to my right, sweeping through the final corner comes Roy Meujas. Surely that's going to put him in the lead of the race, but no, the Porsche's got going, and it looks so slow because it's still in the pit lane. It cannot be at great speed until it's crossed the white line, then it can accelerate. I think he should just be in front down to turn 1, but with the tyres already got heat in them and the heat in the driver, Meujas could sweep around the outside to take the lead of the race. The outside is there to be taken. He's done the job. Can he get it into turn 2? And how quickly can Bastian Buus get up to speed? So I thought it was a good stroke to stay out as long as possible. Those few laps where traffic got in the way, drivers who were slower, had served their pit stops, came out in front of him, have cost Joel Sturm. They cost him time, and it does mean for his teammate Bastian Buus, he's come out just into second place. Didn't quite work for them, but now let's see how quickly Buus can get back out up to pace in this race. And indeed how Roy Meujas can stretch his legs at the moment. I do expect, with time aplenty, 24 minutes left in this race, for Bastian Buus to find his mojo of old and see what he can do on his return to the GT4 European Series. Well, he might be given a gift on a plate, because Roy Meujas was maybe looking in his mirrors, maybe just didn't find the grip he expected. And here's the battle for 3rd place overall. And Stéphane Lemeray in the number 8 Toyota fighting very, very hard indeed. In fact, it's so hard to see the car in fourth until you get up close, and that's Gregory Gilbert who's taken over Fabien Michel, having half a look, and has Lemeray outbraked himself into turn 10. Can he get around the corner? He's had to go very wide indeed. The door is half open, side by side. From 10 to 11 they go, but importantly for Lemeray in the Toyota, he's got the inside line. Now he's going to be wider on the exit as they go out of turn 12. Surely there won't be enough grunt for the Audi to go up the inside into 13. Oh, half a look, definite consideration there. Turn 15, so difficult to overtake into here. 14, 15, you can unsettle the car in front, but there's so little space to make an overtaking manoeuvre. Your best bet is to get a better exit out of turn 15 and accelerate onto the start-finish straight. In fact, Lemeray did such a good job, the toe isn't there for the Audi driver to give chase. So looking very, very good indeed for Mayo Haas. He just got his nose in front, had a lap or so advantage when it came to the pit stop, and when he came out just to the good. Right, it's all settled down. Where is the championship leading McLaren? 18th position, it's where it started the race. Out of the points, down in 18th. Where is the championship challenging Toyota? This is for the Silver Cup class, by the way. It's in 4th place. At the moment, that is good for a helping of a dozen points. The margin between them before this race was 44 points. It'll be 32 points if it stays like that, and that will be enough for Charlie Fagg and Bailey Voisin, because already 26 points up for grabs, or 25 for the win in tomorrow's race. So maybe they just need to stay where they are and not take any risks. And certainly for the Toyota crew, Potty, who did the first part of the race, and Lemeray, it's all about taking risks now. It's do or die, it's all or bust, quite frankly, if they want to win the Silver Cup class. The chance may go away from them today. Reiterate, 44 points in arrears. They can take 25 for the win with no points going to McLaren. That will then come down to 19, which means they have to win tomorrow. They have to win today, they have to win tomorrow. It's quite simple. Not easy to do on the track, but simple to understand. Second of the Allied Racing, Porsche's having a good little scrap, but unfortunately for them that's not right at the sharp end of the field. It's a bit further down the order. Now wanting to see the gap between Roy Mayo Haas and the pack. Well, John Prometheus actually listed in the lead of the race. Well, I find that absolutely remarkable. So, right, let's take a look. And, well, you could see it coming, getting looser and looser. And Bastien Bus seized the moment, moved ahead of the Audi, which has reported in the pits. Have they got a puncture? Because it was a sudden loss of pace. It looks like it could be a right rear puncture. Oh, how unfortunate was that? I was really looking to see if Bastien Bus could close in, but he actually was given it on a plate there. The couple of mistakes in that running a little bit wide, and maybe that's where the puncture was picked up. But actually, it might be the right front. But anyhow, one of the right wheels, and then on the track, suddenly it's getting very, very busy indeed. V8 Racing Camaro trying to pick its way back up the order, having been given a spin. May yet get into points in the top 10. Timo Nebur catching up. A good fight with Tom Canning in the background of the shot. It's getting very busy. The Allied Racing Porsche, Joel Prometheus in number 26, moving around in front of that pack. So the unfortunate yellow Sansalot Racing Audi that started on the outside of the front row, shoveled back down, but that's had to have its run through the pit lane tyres replacer. All that work has come to naught. There it is, back onto the circuit, but the number on the windscreen so much smaller. Sorry, that's the other yellow one. That's the bright yellow one from car number 69 from Team Full Motorsport. And that 7th place overall, still leading the AM class. They got challenged and overtaken by Marcus Lundstrass, but his car has tumbled down the order. It's in 27th place. The Aston Martin now in the hands of Henrik Lyngby Pedersen. But in 7th place overall is Blanchemin, so it's been a good first half of the race, a good second half for them. Bastien Bus leading the race, nearly 4 and a bit seconds clear of Gregory Gilbert. There is the Pro-Am leader in 2nd place overall, and then getting the tail right out is Stéphane Lemeray. He has to chase the win in this race. It's sort of the win or nothing. 4th place is car number 14. Then the 2 speed car Audis, Benjamin Lariche and Pierre Courroy, 5th and 6th overall. drivers running very, very wide out of chicane. Some will be warned for track limits, that's for sure. Turn 15, a corner where it's all being investigated. And Rory Mayhuas, obviously, with that puncture, falling down the order. He's tumbled out of the lead of the race, down to second, into the pits, and he will drop all the way down outside the top 30, one would think, with that extra pit stop. Leading the Pro-Am Cup, already got the championship in the bag, running second overall. Gregory Gilbert, brilliant start to the race by Fabien Michal, nice and tidy, gained a few places. Got overtaken by their sister car from Sansalot Racing, but back into second place, and now second in the race, but first in the Pro-Am Cup. Gregory Gilbert, it's been a fantastic season. If they can finish where they are now in second position overall, that would be their third outright second place in the 2021 series. Very, very good for a Pro-Am lineup. Still a lot of place sorting out further down the order. Car number 25, one of the many, many Audis from Sansalot Racing. That's the one with the green livery, Cyril Salai and Olivier Estevez having a fine race. But out front, Bastien Boost, last time I looked, he was 4.2 seconds clear of Gregory Gilbert, running different races, one's in the Silver Cup, one's in the Pro-Am, but edging away with each and every lap. Best of the BMWs, Berkay Bessler, 6th place overall, being chased very hard by Gael Castelli in his Alpine. And a little bit of gap back to Michel Blanchemin, who's leading the AM class in 8th place overall. Yes, 8th place. Car behind him is Joel Camathius and Timon Nabur, or in fact, I'll tell you what, let's swap those names around. They just had a change of position. The Camaro up into 9th, and Camathius in the Porsche back to 10th, and he may lose some more positions because he's suddenly got a lot of company behind. Tom Canning in the 55 Aston Martin, and on his tail, getting very close to his tail, number 88 Mercedes, and Timothée Bourret, nose to tail, fantastic middle order action just outside the top 10 actually, and Maxime Soulet in the green Aston Mercedes just in behind, took over from Luca Bosco, and the Belgian driver starting to pick up positions for Selesla Racing Team. Nearly 5 seconds the advantage at the front of the field now for Bastien Boost, the 22 Porsche. Now a late dive up the inside, and it's another place gain. It's 2 places in a lap and a half for Timon Nabur. V8 Camaro picking its way forward up to 9th. So just to run through the classes, leading the race, leading the Silver Cup Challenge, Bastien Boost, 2nd place, but leading the Pro-Am Challenge, Gregory Gilbert, and in 8th place, the next target for the charging Timon Nabur is Michel Blanchemin, who is leading the AM class, qualified in 6th at the hands of his teammate Christophe Hamon, and running very well indeed. But Timon Nabur is on a real charge. Gael Castelli enjoying a good battle with Berkay Bessler, well, enjoying it so much that he's moved ahead of the BMW, so a change of position. Up to 6th place goes the Alpine 222, guest runner in the championship this weekend, normally competing in the French series, the FFSA GT4 Championship. Very well supported indeed, and quite a lot of the runners have decided they've concluded their season in that. Very recently they've come down, why would you not, to Barcelona to see what they can do down here in the European Series. Still very busy in behind Joel Camathius in 26 Allied Racing Porsche. He's got Tom Canning in behind the 55 Aston Martin. That's 11th. Timothée Bourret, the 88 Mercedes. In that run of Mercedes, you've then got Enzo Juli in 74 and Maxime Soulet in 34 at the back of that pack. That's the metallic green one coming round in 14th position overall. And an Aston Martin diving in the pits. So I beg its pardon. It's Mercedes diving into the pits. Just trying to identify as it comes past my commentary position. Let's revert to the fact it's an Aston Martin. It's the Mercedes. Sorry, I beg your pardon. Sebastian Boe being called into the pits. Car number 74. So he's out of that gaggle, fighting just outside the top 10. No complaints from Bastien Boost leading this race. Here is the car. Is this a drive-through penalty being served? It may well be, because don't forget that spun the blue Camaro around at the chicane in the early stages of the race. I'm sure that's what's being done, because he's driven the whole way through the pit lane. Now Michel Blanchemin having a lot of company from Tom Canning's Aston Martin, which gets its nose up the inside. He's going past the AM leader. They're not in the same battle, but certainly the pride shown by the crew in the 69 Audi. Well, it's suddenly all gone wrong, and get off the racing line and suddenly 1, 2, 3 cars have come through, but easily leading the AM. We'll take the full AM points here this afternoon, surely, with just under 14 minutes remaining in this 1-hour race. The full motorsport crew is the bright, very bright yellow, black and white Audi at the back of this group. Not so long ago it was at the front of the group, but it doesn't matter, still heading for maximum points in class. Still plenty of overtaking to be done, some of which may be on the circuit, some not, and certainly car 70 driver of that, Doria, being very robust indeed, but then left his braking too late. It was too tight a line and the positions swap around. Jim Plat finding it fairly easy to make his move, pick his way up the order, more places gained for the French driver. Full-on contact there, and a hand up for the driver of the 36 Audi, but it's not been the best of laps, unfortunately, for Jean-Luc Doria, the Swiss driver. Contact and the Chevrolet Racing Mercedes off at the side of the track, up at turn 13, having had one moment and then side-on contact with, I think that was Antoine Leclerc. It was number 36, Arcadia Racing Alpine at turn 13, side-to-side contact on the way into the corner. Right. The two McLarens sort of doing what they need to do, which isn't very much indeed, because as long as Antoine Potti and Stéphane Lemeray don't win the race, they're running in third place, but they're 10 seconds down on the race leader. That's fine. Their advantage, their position will be sufficient to win the championship. Surely they had 44-point advantage. It will be cut down by 15 points, but that still makes it 29. There's 25 points for a win. So Charlie Fagg, with a dozen minutes remaining in this race, can afford to just do one thing: keep on circulating. No points to be gained, no real benefit to be gained by picking off the cars ahead to score points. He's got to pass 7 of them to get into the top 10. No, let's call that 8 points. He's in 8 places. He's in 18th overall, so he can run where he is to take the title, and he's doing just that. The hardest part of the race for Bailey Voisin and Charlie Fagg was the start of the race, trying to keep out of trouble when you're down in the middle order. Car 88, they're about to gain a place, because car 88 is about to pick up a penalty for causing a collision. The penalty is a drive-through, and that's in 11th place overall, so they will get closer to the points, but not close enough. So for Bailey Voisin in the pit lane, he could be about to become GT4 European Series Silver Cup champion for this year. Still got tomorrow's race to come, but it really required Stéphane Lemeray, who's finishing the race in the number 8 Toyota, running 3rd overall in the car started by Antoine Potti, to come through to win this race, to keep the title battle alive. It was an outside chance. They've given it a really, really good shot, but it's not happening. And another car coming into the pit lane, it's probably 88, presumably to serve its drive-through penalty. So everyone else will move up the order as Timothée Perret comes into pit lane. He'll drive in at pit lane speed limit, down the pit lane, and withdraw from the pits and emerge back onto the circuit. But his points in this race are out of the window. He was just outside the points as it happens. And car 70, we've seen it stop at turn 14. It pulled off the circuit after the contact at turn 13. So that was Jean-Luc Doria, but nobody seems to be stopping the driver, who's edging away little by little. He's doing what he needs to do to take maximum points here in the Silver Cup class. Allied Racing's Porsche driver Bastien Boost, so good over the years in this championship. And the Danish driver just really seems to have a handle on the way to make a Porsche Cayman behave. And this circuit that all the drivers in GT3 and GT4 were saying, where has the grip gone? It really has been a struggle for every driver in every make of car to find the grip, but that's the challenge of the weekend. Track conditions changing all the time. The Pro-Am Cup is being led, dominated, may I say, by the driver in 2nd place overall. He's 4.6 seconds down on the race leader, Bastien Boost, but 3 places clear of the 2nd driver in class. That's Pierre Couroy in one of the 2 speed car Audis that are running 4th and 5th. Waved yellow flags, full course yellow. Full course yellow, that is because that number 70 Mercedes is at the side of the track, pulled off after the contact. That's the Chevrolet Racing Mercedes, car number 70. There it is, off the side of the circuit, but it dribbled down the hill. Let's take a look at what happened. There was a contact with the Alpine that went up the inside. Not entirely sure that Doria really saw him coming, expected a passing manoeuvre, but at that point the Alpine was committed, side-by-side contact, and off he went. Actually, hip and shoulder, as John Watson would say, up the inside, and I think D'Oria is probably going to feel a little bit miffed with that, but the car is broken, it is not running, it's about to be towed away, but until it is, the full course yellow period will continue. And the gap is still 4 and a bit seconds for the race leader. We may get to the point of having a safety car, but I actually think we may be able to go full racing again as the clock counts down. 8.5 minutes remain without having to get to that point, because I think the number 70 Mercedes will be pulled clear remarkably soon. It's just being hooked up at the moment. And for Gregory Gilbert in second place in car number 42, that's the leading Pro-Am runner, so he's got no challengers really within sight. There's a gap of 10 and a bit seconds back to the car in third place. That's not the one where we are getting the safety car coming out, because it's just pulled ahead of Stéphane Lemere's Toyota. Benjamin Lariche is just behind the number 4 Audi. Then Pierre Couroy, the second runner in Pro-Am, is in 5th in number 5. Gael Castelli, guest driver this weekend in the 222. Alpine from Mirage Racing, he's in 6th. Berkay Bessler, 7th for BMW. Tiemann Nabour, who's had a really good run in the second half of the race, and the V8 Racing Camaro is in 8th. Joel Comathius, the 4th runner in Pro-Am, is in 9th, and Tom Canning's got into the top 10 in the number 55 Aston Martin. But there'll be precious little time. We've got the safety car now at the head of the field. It's picked up race leader Bastien Buss. Just remember, he had a 4-second advantage. The car's under full course yellow, running with a limiter. They should all be running at the same mandated pace, so nobody's going to gain any time, make up any of the time lost. But now the safety car is at the front of the field. The field could close up all over again, but only once it got there. But I fancy Bastien Buss will be good enough to prevail at the front of the field. Doesn't want anyone getting onto his tail, doesn't want to undo the work that was started early on, and still would like to know what happened to the Loris Cabarrou pole starting number 30, the CMR Alpine. Remember when the safety car was out before, just as the safety car restart was about to happen, it pulled into the pit lane with the lights off on its roof and was followed in by the then race leader, which the car was looked at and then driven back to the paddock. So instead of a helping of possible 25 points for the victory, none whatsoever, and disappointment for those behind. 2 cars coming into the pits at the moment. One is being pulled in. It's the number 70 Mercedes. There's another Mercedes coming in behind. I don't know if it's coming in to serve a penalty, but it's going nowhere fast, especially as the car in front has almost blocked the pit lane as it's pulled clear. I think it's the 126 NM Racing. Yes, it is. It's the second of the NM Racing entries. Philip Vava and Rafa Villanueva. So unfortunately for them, going no further in this race. Right, interesting turn 9 speeds, 139 kph. This is the corner, turn 9, crests the hill. Drivers often go a little too deep in the corner, then they lose what speed they were hoping to carry down the straight. Safety car going on for 1 further lap. It must have been pretty close to withdrawing last time around, or this time around, but it hasn't. I'm wondering where the attack's going to come from. I rather fancy Gael Castelli looking to make a move. He's at the back of that pack in 6th place overall. When we get to the restart, he's been very successful in the French Championship this year. And suddenly, having had a number of the drivers ahead of him pull out of the race, this is an opportunity for him to see what he can do. He came 4th in the Pro-Am Championship in the French Series, and when you've got a top 6 and a chance to get on the outright podium, you're going to try and grab it, surely. But he's got to pick off Pierre Couroy, Benjamin Lariche and Stéphane Lemeret if he's going to get up onto the podium. 2 McLarens nose to tail, 16th Charlie Fagg, 17th teammate Dean McDonald. They could yet get to the top 10, but it's not going to happen in terms of overtaking. It will take incidents for others. But look, the clock, we had an hour on it at the start of the race. It's down to 5 minutes and falling behind the safety car. Okay, the car 126 had a pit stop, a drive-through penalty for stopping outside the pit window. It's unfortunate. The pit window's open after 25 minutes and closes after 35, and clearly for Allied Racing, they stayed out too long. That's why we fleetingly had Alexander Hartwig at the top of the time chart. So I couldn't quite understand it, but then realised as he handed over to Joel Comathius, stayed out too long. Safety car in at the end of this lap as we look at the replay of why the safety car was pulled out. It was that action that had unfortunate moments for Jamie D'Oria, Jean-Luc Doria. The assault from the number 36 Alpine was what did it, and that was Antoine Leclerc. So lights as they go, still blazing on the safety car as they go down to turn left at the bottom of the infield straight. That's turn number 10. But the safety car is going to be coming in at the end of this lap. Look out for that car that's running 6th in the train. All the advantage that was gained, that nearly 5-second advantage by Bastien Bus has been taken away. And Gregory Gilbert, I said at the start of the race that Fabien Michal, Gregory Gilbert, they've had 2 second places on the circuit and 2 third places. They would love to add to their Pro-Am title an outright victory. This is their opportunity. How can you read the restart? Of course, the advantage on the restart goes to the driver at the front of the queue. No one can overtake till the start-finish line has been passed, but it's the prerogative of the driver at the lead of the field. The safety car withdraws into pit lane to decide when they floor the throttle. It was coming out of turn 15. It was the chicane onto the start-finish straight, but it's been read very, very well indeed by Gregory Gilbert. If he'd been caught napping, he'd have lost more than that. He's about 3-4 car lengths behind. We've got 3 minutes remaining in this race, and he's getting a little bit of a tow as they go down the straight. Someone's run very wide out of turn 16, kicking up the dust in the background. This is the opportunity. The first 4 cars have got clear. I said Gael Castelli might gain places. He's already picked up 1. He's in 5th in the Alpine. And now looks a slightly untidy entry and a possible spin from number 4. And he's taken out Castelli as he rejoined the circuit. Benjamin Leriche got it wrong. And unfortunately, Gael Castelli was the driver who then got caught out as between turns 1 and 2. There is Castelli, bodywork rubbing on his Alpine. He'd already gained 1 place with a really good restart. Let's take a look. Bastien Bus followed by Gregory Gilbert, all neat and tidy. The first 4 cars have got clear. The Toyota's in 3rd place, Lemeray, and then just almost braking turn, having to swerve to go avoid hitting the Toyota too deep into the first corner goes Benjamin Leriche, and then in 5th place, getting clouted as he rejoined the circuit, was the unfortunate Gael Castelli. So those McLarens could yet be up in the points, but not by doing the overtaking, by allowing those ahead of them to make the mistakes. They don't want to risk it, but they're damage to the Audi quite clearly after the contact, and there may be a damage for anybody else on the final lap when they go past that car, because there's debris out on the circuit. Bastien Bus leading. Who else is changing place in behind? Let's take a look. Turn 7 cars still cutting across the circuit at turn 8, trying to balance the cars. But our race leader, Bastien Bus, looks as though he's got this under control. 1 3/4 minutes remain. Gregory Gilbert still interested in an outright win, though he's going to take the maximum points in Pro-Am, as they've done many times this year. 6 times out of the 10 races so far. Maximum Pro-Am points have gone to Gregory Gilbert and the driver who started the race in that car, Fabien Michal. That's why they'd already nailed this championship in Pro-Am to the wall before they came here. Berkay Bessler being pushed very hard by Team in Nabour. They'll be accelerated up to 5th and 6th positions when they cross the start-finish line, because Benjamin Leriche won't be coming through, and neither will Gael Castelli, certainly not at the front end of the field. So Bastien Bus leads by 3/4 of a second precisely from Gregory Gilbert, who's looking very busy. And for Stéphane Lemeray, needed the victory. It's not come his way, but he's done everything he can with Antoine Potti running on his own in 3rd place. The real battling behind, Berkay Bessler up to 4th, Team in Nabour up to 5th. Those McLarens you can see on the screen, they're 14th and 15th. Doesn't matter out of the points, because for the driver of car number 23, it's looking good for the championship title. Charlie Fagg keeping out of trouble. He'll be about a dozen seconds down on the race winner at the end of the race. But will it be Bastien Bus who wins this? This is the final lap. Turn 5, down the hill they go. Gregory Gilbert certainly has the intent. He can try and unseat Bastien Bus, but I would suggest that's harder than he may have even considered, because Bus has returned to the championship this weekend, and the Dane, just if you come back to a championship in which you've shone in the past, what you've got to do is make sure you carry on shining. He's doing precisely that. First 2, they've really pulled clear of 3rd place, but then again, Stéphane Lemeray doesn't have to push too hard, doesn't want to be attacked by the driver behind, but Berkay Bessler, the young Turk, really ain't close enough to do that. Down to turn 10 for the final time. Bastien Bus turns in, no challenge there. So if there's going to be anything coming from Gregory Gilbert, and I suggest it isn't going to happen, it's got to be turn 13 to try and unseat. But we have seen an unseating at that corner. The Alpine of Antoine Leclerc going up the inside, not quite close enough to make a similar move. So he's going to have to settle for 2nd place overall, most surely, unless he attacks into the chicane. There is no space at the chicane, and they negotiate that. So at the end, it's going to be Bastien Bus sweeping around, and his teammate in the pit lane will be very happy indeed. That is Joel Sturm, who's driven well all weekend. So there is the checkered flag, and victory at the end, 22-42 in 2nd place. Gregory Gilbert, he wins the Pro-Am honours as well. Then Stéphane Lemeray 3rd. in the Toyota, 4th Berkay Bessler in his BMW, and Timo Nebor's 5th in his Chevrolet. 5 makes of cars in the top 7 makes of cars in the top 7, because then we've got Jim Plyer in his Mercedes in 6th and Tom Canning in his Aston Martin in 7th. No, let's call it 8 places, because the Alpine is in 8th place. That's fantastic. That's Antoine Leclerc. But there's the champion coming down, cruising in for United Autosports. Did what he needed to do. Didn't panic. That was important. Now, the driver who won the AM Cup didn't end up in the top 10. 12th place overall, but really good run for Michel Blanchemin, building on the work of his teammate Christophe Hamon, who did such an aggressive first stint in the race and kept it honest at the front end of the field. Jim Plyer, by the way, was 2nd in the Pro-Am class behind Gregory Gilbert, and the 3rd runner in Pro-Am was 8th overall. That is Antoine Leclerc in the number 36 Alpine. So lots of variety at the top. But Bastien Bous, well-deserved victory, and you know, my heart does go out to Loris Cabarrou, who led away from pole. Blameless race, and then had to report to the pits with a problem. That was a disappointment, just as the safety car withdrew. But very, very good race indeed, and certainly I'd say the GT4 European Series just goes from strength to strength. It got to the end of the season with more than 40 cars coming here to Barcelona to play, and they were thoroughly entertaining. A few drivers will be left rueing the fact they got a little over-ambitious, or indeed some of them just got caught out in other people's moments, but it was good. So, race winner overall, Joel Sturm, who kicked it off, and Bastien Bous, who brought it to a finish. And for the Pro-Am runners, victory going to the drivers who were 2nd to the finish line, Fabien Michal and Gregory Gilbert. And in fact, a lot of the Pro-Am runners, 5 Pro-Am runners in the top 10 positions. And then we go to just outside the top 10 in 12th place overall. Victory in class, as it looked to be from the outset, to Blanchemin and Hamon for Team Full Motorsport. And what a run that was for Allied Racing. Both their cars looked very good indeed, but one stayed out too long, got penalised for not pitting in the pit window. But no such problems for Joel Sturm and Bastien Bous. In the end, just under half a second clear after that late race restart from Fabien Michal and Gregory Gilbert, who won the Pro-Am class. Antoine Potti and Stéphane Lemeray, outside shot at the championship title. They needed victory here today to keep a chance for the final race tomorrow. They got 3rd place. It wasn't enough, but it wasn't for want of trying. So well done to them, but it just wasn't to be today. And over the course of the year, United Autosports have had a very strong season with their McLarens, and for the new champions, I'm sure there will be plenty of celebration. But let's celebrate for the drivers who took victory today, Bastien Bous and the driver who started off in that number 22. Allied Racing Porsche from 3rd on the grid. Joel Sturm made that really good run early on. Everybody stepped up when the number 30 CMR Alpine pulled off with, I still don't know what the problem was with it, but plenty of good drives. And for a lot of the drivers who worked their way up from as low as 20th position in the running to get in the top 10, it did take some other incidents, but they worked very hard indeed. And on this circuit, you've got to be really sure the overtaking manoeuvres are going to work. So, one more race to go in the 2021 GT4 European Series. And still, you know, some applause down there as well for the drivers. They've still got a thought on tomorrow. For some, any championship hopes have now been extinguished, but for Gilbert and Michel, as they talk down there, Michel already with his cap on, and Gregory Gilbert just taking off his helmet and balaclava. Another job well done, another 2nd place on race order, but yet another win in the Pro-Am class. That's their 3rd, 2nd place overall in the race, but their 7th win out of 11 starts in the Pro-Am class for Santalot Racing. No wonder Gregory Gilbert on the right of the screen smiling so much. And what you do when you return to a championship, you want to win. When you do that, you celebrate by driving in very, very slowly, and that's what Bastien Bous has done. And there can be plenty of applause down there from Allied Racing, German crew running the Porsche Caymans for so many years, and his German teammate Joel Sturm gets the tall Dane out of the car, and that was a very, very impressive run for Allied Racing. Sponsorship from the Danish bakery, that's made me feel remarkably hungry. Dreaming of coffee and pastries, but Bastien Bous, good job. Smiles all around, earplugs out, and that's what you do. If you come back, you've got to win. He did win. And for the drivers alongside them, the number 8 Toyota crew, probably a pleasure they worked their way from 9th up to 3rd. That's a job very well done on a circuit which is so hard to overtake. But unfortunately for Stéphane Lemerey and Antoine Poty, it wasn't enough to keep their title hopes alive. So plenty of merriment for Fabien Michal and Gregory Gilbert, bedecking their Santalot Racing Audi with the European flag and climbing up for the photographers, but they already had the Pro-Am title for 2021 in the bag. But another impressive run from the pair of them, 2nd overall today. But to the winners, it's Bastien Bus who brought it home, and the driver who kicked off for Allied Racing. Smiles all round for Joel Sturm, and what a job they did today. So let's go down to hear from those winners. Bastien Bus who finished, and the driver who kicked off, Joel Sturm.
Congratulations, boys. Joel, you started that race very, very strong. Bastien, you brought it home. Joel, just talk us through your first part of the race.
Yeah, I've just tried to save as much tyres as I could for Bastien in the end. I think it worked quite well. Even though we had a little problem on the pit stop at 2 seconds over, I think in the end it didn't matter. And he did a great job. And the 2nd win now in the season, I'm just so happy now.
Bastien, you controlled that restart superbly. A little bit more action just behind you.
Well, the team gave us a perfect car, so I would not say it was easy, but it was more under control than it could have been. I was not that afraid of the safety car, even though they were quite close. I actually didn't know it was the last lap, so maybe that was why I just tried everywhere to get on the inside, and yeah. But I think in general we had a really good race, and we are looking forward to a good race tomorrow as well.
Absolutely, well done. Congratulations to both of you.
Thanks very much, Gemma. How funny, he didn't realise it was the final lap. Thank goodness he didn't leave a gap. Mind you, he was never going to. Bastien Bus didn't come here to be overtaken, but certainly Gregory Gilbert had half a look early in the lap, but later on just enough of a margin. So let's take a look. This was the start of the race. One car already going backwards was Fabien Michal in yellow Audi. Went from 2nd down into 5th position, and Christophe Hamon right in the mix, running in the AM class, but taking on the big guns at the front of the field. That was great to see. But Loris Cabarrou leading the way at the front of the field. There's Christophe Hamon having a real go at Antoine Poty, and Ruben Delsart taking a look up the inside of Sébastien Beau. That's about as close as you can get without contact at turn 7. But unfortunately, that was how close you can get when you are going to have contact. And for Jörg Rapanga, innocent party there, Sébastien Beau assaulting him at the chicane. And then César Gazot being given a shove up the inside, and off the circuit he went, and that brought out the safety car. But when it withdrew, the race leader went in the pits behind it. Loris Cabarrou had a problem, and unfortunately for them, then he had to park the car in the paddock. And here we are, there it is, pulling off. They did some work in the pit lane. It clearly wasn't sufficient. The car was drivable, but not raceable. So a maximum point score out of the window. And then it was a case of traffic getting in the way of Joel Sturm. Did he stay out too long? He came in at the final moment he possibly could. There was plenty of argy-bargy as the cars rejoined after their pit stops. But when the number 22 Porsche came out, it got its nose in front. But by the time they got to the first corner with a lap or two under its belt, it was Gilbert going around the outside. But then he had a bit of a problem. Sorry, that's Roy May who has. Sorry, I beg your pardon. Gilbert's in the blue car. And seemed like a puncture, came into the pits. That is why Bastien Bus was able to get through so easily. And then in behind, Gael Castelli picking up positions, and there was contact that sent the 17 Mercedes off at turn 13. That would bring out a full course yellow period and a safety car period. But when that was released, it was busy. And on the restart, number 4 got it that little bit wrong and took a rotation. And unfortunately, Benjamin Lariche came across, took out Castelli. And this was the run to the line. A good chase from Gregory Gilbert, but victory there to Bastien Bus. He won outright, and 2nd place winning the Pro-Am class was Gregory Gilbert. What a great race that was. Just waiting for the drivers to be called out onto the podium, and I think there'll be some very happy faces there, most notably the drivers who took victory this afternoon. But 3rd place, still a good run, but not enough to keep them in the championship hunt. Out onto the podium should be coming Antoine Poty from car number 8, the CMR Toyota, and Stéphane Lemerey. Poty and Lemerey coming out onto the podium. Sebastian Boost coming out. Well, actually, that's interesting. So it looks as though oh, I see, it's the Silver Cup top step. Because, of course, the car that finished second on the track, Gregory Gilbert and Fabien Michel, are in the Pro-Am honours. And up into third place is the Borissan Automotive in the Silver Cup class. And that's the BMW crew, Sembolok Bazi and Berkay Bessler. So just waiting for the national anthems. So racing again tomorrow. All these drivers may be keeping their race suits dry, but this side, the championship has gone away from them. Stéphane Lemaire and Antoine Poty. Well, they gave it a good shot, and will they just give it a good shot with the champagne? Let's see. So smattering of applause all around for the drivers up on the podium. They've got to do it all again tomorrow. Track conditions will be very different indeed. Tomorrow's race is a morning race, and let's see what the weather holds. It gets warmer and warmer here through the day, and the drivers, if they're sensible, charging away to keep clear. Certainly one of the Borissan Automotive drivers probably took a run. That was probably Berkay Bessler, because he's competing in the GT3. He may not have brought enough race suits to cover them with champagne as well. But take a look at the cars beneath the podium. It was the number 22 Porsche that took the full honours today. Joel Sturm started from third, and it rose to second. And then in the second part of the race, that became the lead and victory to Bastien Boost. But the Silver Cup overall, there is the answer. The championship now in the pocket of Bailly Voisin and Charlie Fagg. They didn't finish in the top 10. They didn't need to. As long as Stéphane Lemaire and Antoine Poty didn't win this race and take the 25 points for that, they were going to be safe. And that is how the race spun out. Third place in the championship, the second of the McLarens, Dean McDonald and Gus Bowers. So now the Pro-Am runners coming out onto the podium. Trophies high above their heads. Bobalik and Pla coming out in second place. Third place already on the podium was the Arcadia Racing Alpine crew. But here we are, the drivers who won the Prime class, second place overall. Gregory Gilbert and the taller figure of Fabien Michel, who started the race, up onto the top step of the podium. And on the right side of the podium is Stéphane Guérin and Antoine Leclerc. Third for them, and third for them actually results in 8th overall. So the anthems are over after the Pro-Am honours on the podium here. It's been a great race. We're going to do it all over again tomorrow. 41 cars coming out to play. Do make sure you join us for the GT4 European Series.